and happy Friday, and thanks for tuning into Radio Free Rhinecliff.org. And this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm, I'm your host, Norm. I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Mr. Matt Mercier. Woohoo! Matt or Matthew? It's just, you go by both?
I go by both. Yeah, I like Matthew.
Okay.
Yeah, Matthew's nice.
And Mercier, was that at one point Mercier?
Yes. It's, the French Canadian. Yeah, that's the indigenous way to say it. Yeah, that's the
indigenous French Canadian
way to say it.
And your people came from French Canada?
French Canada, yeah. As far as I know, yeah. I haven't done as much research as I'd like, but yeah. Further north, yeah. And then German and Irish. Yeah.
German and Irish. And Matt, for people who are just tuning in and don't know him, works here at the station, Radio for Rhinecliff, as an engineer and personality. And you're doing a radio play here.
Yes,
which you're recording right here, which I'm luckily a part of, and that's exciting. But also, you're a writer and performer. You've performed 3 times at the Moth, which is like sort of the Super Bowl of performing live narrative, art.
Storytelling. Yeah.
And storytelling. It's amazing. And in one of them, this is what I'm getting to. You tell the tale of your mom and dad.
Yes.
Yeah, Dad was a priest.
Yep.
Will you tell that story? Because it was so good.
Oh, well, how much do you want to know? Because it's a long, So
just a little bit.
Dad was a priest. Yeah, Dad was a fully ordained priest.
Right.
He had been in the seminary. He was basically a priest for 9 years. And my mother was much younger. She was a novitiate, so she was not fully in the life yet. And she was kind of doubting whether she wanted to stay. And then they met. They were both social workers at the time in New York in the 70s.
Okay.
And they met, and she just basically rocked his world. And he decided... They got together and said, we have to decide what to do with this because we're having feelings for each other. And so, it became very complicated.
And how old were you when you found this out?
I asked my brother this because little brother, younger. And I asked him when he remembered it. And he said, I always knew. I was like, but no, there had to be a moment. The moment we found out, my father, decided we were going to have mass at home and decided, we're not going to church today, so we're going to sit here at the kitchen table, get the Wonder Bread, get the box wine. We're going to bless the bread and the wine, and we're going to have mass at home. And after that, I thought, can you do that? Is that legal? It's like, why? How did that?
I can't imagine it is.
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I don't think it's legal at all. But 20 minutes and we were done. Did the whole mass in 20 minutes. And so it was a huge thrill. And that's how we found out.
And for people listening, go to Matt Mercier, Mercier, and Google his name, and maybe Google his name and the Moth.
And the Moth, yeah.
And you'll see the 3 stories and listen to this story. It's like 10 minutes long or something.
Yeah.
It's so
like
good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to just jump the shark here. And when your pop left, he wrote a letter. He had to write a letter of resignation.
Basically, yeah. If you're a priest, you have to basically write a letter to the Pope. So you have to write a letter asking permission to leave, and then you have to write a letter to your bishop. You have to write, it's basically a bureaucracy.
Asking permission,
or saying I'm going to. He never got permission, by the way. So technically speaking, he got the letter like 3 years later.
Oh, okay.
But the time frame of the Catholic Church was not, and the time frame of his heart. So they got married.
That's a great sentence.
Yeah.
The time frame of the Catholic Church was not the time frame of his heart.
No, they would have had to wait many years until it was like the one time in his life that he broke the rules. Like really, my father's not
apart from the Wonder Bread and Carlo Rossi.
Yo, that's true. Yeah, I guess the second thing. But that's what's so amazing about it because my father's not a rule breaker. But for my mother, he broke the rules, and so they got married by a Jesuit priest. You can always count on the Jesuits to be a little bit more radical, and so they married in their apartment basically.
Right.
And then years later, when they got the formal permission, they got married at City Hall, and so they basically had two 2 or 3 weddings. Yeah,
I love that. What did he say in his letter of resignation? His request?
Well, he's the gist of it. He didn't show it to me until after my mother passed away, sadly, so because it was such a private letter. But the gist of it was, I'm going to leave the priesthood now, and even though I've taken a vow of poverty here in the priesthood, now that I'm entering secular life as a regular working Joe, I'm going to have to get a job. I leave the church, I'm going to have, here in the church, I have shelter, I have food. I'll be taken care of for the rest of my life into retirement. But now that I'm leaving this bureaucratic institution, I'll be taking my real vow of poverty, which I think is what he's like, pretty much is saying this is what the church should live by, these principles. We shouldn't be so pampered and taken care of. But so that was his whole, and they didn't like that. The local bishops took offense to that.
Local bishops making a pretty penny.
Local priests said, "I don't wish you well." Oh yeah.
It's like, well, that's not very Christian.
I don't know. I think they were jealous. I don't know. There were a lot of people leaving the church at the time.
Right. This is the 70s.
Yeah. After Vatican II. Vatican II is when it all shifted, if you want to get into the history. But Vatican II came along, and the priests no longer had their backs to the congregation. They had to turn around, and they could say the mass in any language, not just Latin.
Miles Davis then at that point turned his back to the audience.
If you're going... so it was... Vatican II freed up a lot. The windows of the church were open. People felt more freedom to leave, and so,
Did they stop doing the mass in Latin?
No, they didn't stop doing it, but you could do it in Spanish. You could do it in French. You could, it wasn't...
Oh, okay.
Before that, you were, you didn't have to do it in Latin, but you had to do it in English or Latin. So I'm probably getting some of this wrong, but that basically Vatican II made it more expansive, made the church more expansive, and the more conservative members were like, this is not...
And was it around the same time your mom was writing letters to the bishop saying, like, maybe you should sell some of that jewelry?
Well, that was when she was younger, before she really met my father. But my mother was part of a cadre of sisters. She's a sister of Mercy, and they were in the Upper West Side, and they were quite the rebel rousers. Yeah, they would write letters to the local bishop demanding that he give his ring to the poor because he had these, illustrious rings. And so they would, and they'd work, they'd take in homeless, and she worked with Cesar Chavez, on the grape boycott. She was quite the activist.
So your folks were really kind of walking the walk of the path of Jesus.
I think that was the biggest lesson. Yeah, they were doing the works of mercy. They were performing, taking care of the poor and the sick and visiting the prisoner, like that. My mother believed
the spirit of Christianity, not the spirit of the church.
Right, exactly, right. And that was the gist of it. And that's the biggest lesson I took from it. And when we had mass at that kitchen table, that to me was far more instructive than anything at Catholic school.
Right.
Which was all doom and gloom, And it was,
Right. And had you gone to Catholic school at that point?
I did, I got first communion, but then when I got to confirmation, my father was like, "This is taking too long. I'm pulling you out. This is too bureaucratic, and this could be done like, I don't know why they're making you go through this rigmarole, so you're done." So
right.
Yeah. So
interesting. And so are you a Catholic now?
I can't honestly. I mean, I have a great tenderness towards the Catholic Church. No, I do. I have a great tenderness towards the people who are doing the work.
Right.
Doing the work. I still know lots of nuns. My godmother's a nun.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. In the story, I refer to them as the Justice League for Christ. I think there's like a whole, these women that raised me, a lot of gay and lesbian women, ex-nuns, they're still out there, and they're doing the work, and they've always done the work. They're kind of invisible. The church doesn't give them their due. So I have a great tenderness for the Catholic worker. I don't know if you're familiar with the Catholic worker movement.
Yeah.
Dorothy Day. I have great tenderness for those.
Liberal.
Oh, anarchist.
Yeah.
Not liberal. Don't say that.
Leftist.
You'll get tossed out.
Right.
Yeah, no, anarchist, Catholic anarchist. But she started those houses of hospitality, feeding the poor. So I have great respect and tenderness for that part of the movement.
And how do you feel about the bureaucracies of the church and other...
Like everyone else, I get impatient with the mechanisms that they've constructed to hide their shame and their whatever. The sex scandal is I'm as angry as anyone else. Like the fact that it's this giant octopus of conspiracy is really disheartening. So
right, yeah,
and it's discouraging. But I have great tenderness again for the people that are doing the real works of mercy.
Sure, absolutely. Those people are amazing.
Yeah, I wish I could be one of them. I tried so hard.
Are you not? I mean, I sort of imagine that you probably do help out a lot.
I try to be of service.
Right.
I try to be of service to my community. That's the greatest lesson, is to be of service.
That's it.
Well, I'm not living a life of austerity, exactly. That's you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. For me, anyway, service is the jam and austerity is like whatever. Why can't I have a nice
house,
nice shoes,
Yeah.
while trying to serve?
There are some who would say, no, you have to give it all up in order to serve correctly. You have to deny yourself.
Who are the bureaucrats who say that?
I don't know. Believe me, I've had many discussions about this.
Yeah.
Many a late night when I was younger. Because my wife and I met at a Catholic worker at the original Catholic worker in New York on May Day, which is when the Catholic worker was founded. So
good.
So we had many discussions with people who lived there about, well, how far do you have to go? Like, do you still follow Dorothy even though she's now no longer, she's dead? And do you have to really abstain from everything? And can you still engage with the capitalist society and live the works? Is it truly possible to live the works of the gospel if you're engaging in this horrible, rotten system, as she called it? So
right. And so now you're of service when you can, and
I try to be.
You also enjoy the creature comforts of a home in the woods somewhere.
Yep. Deep in the woods. Yeah.
And you met your wife in May Day, some anarchist helpful rally.
Yeah. No, May Day, the Catholic worker has an enormous party to celebrate their founding on May Day. So I'm big party, big soup, big pots of soup and food and music.
Yeah. Did you see the head of the ACL-CIO spoke at the Republican convention? No, the Teamsters.
Yeah, the Teamsters. Yes. And I didn't know if he knew who he was talking to.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Kind of weird.
Talking about that everything benefits corporations. And you do know the crowd that you're addressing, right?
It was kind of cool. Wild. He was delivering the message of the workers. Yeah.
To a bunch of
people who are hostile towards labor.
That was. I mean, we're in the topsy-turvy world. Everything is war is peace and whatever. So it's like,
oh geez, right? Now you're quoting Orwell.
I mean, isn't that where we are? Everything.
It is so Orwellian,
right?
So your wife, you met her at this May Day thing. How long have y'all been together?
We have been together since 2002.
I
mean, really, we've been dating. We got married in 2009, so we've been together.
Still 22 years together.
Still going strong. We built a house together.
Oh, you built that house?
Well, I didn't build it myself, but we actually built two houses together. We built.
Wow.
And we didn't think we'd ever. So my friend took me aside. He's like, when he heard we were going to build a house together, he's like, I have to warn you that couples who build houses together, doesn't end well. It gets
that's how marriages end.
I really want you to understand that before you go through with this. I'm like, okay, thanks, Gene. Yeah, he was really nervous. And then when we were finished, he's like, I'm so happy for you.
And how was the process? Was it difficult? Was it?
Oh yeah,
packed with
fear,
pain, and and arguments, and at each other's throats and stuff.
No, I wouldn't say we were. It was more like how we just had intense discussions of how are we going to deal with this contractor? Or what do we do about the well? Digging the well was the hardest part. So, yeah, but it worked out. We did it.
That's good. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm glad. Now I have a home.
That's great.
And I don't ever want to leave. So
well, thanks for being here. And do you have a lot of acreage there?
Oh, yes, we do. We do, yeah. We have a substantial amount of acreage, yeah. We got very lucky.
And it's next to a shit ton of other acreage?
Yes. It backs up onto 500 acres of undeveloped woods. There's a bird sanctuary, there's a wetlands.
Is it around here?
It's Germantown.
Oh, Germantown.
Yeah, I live in Germantown. So it's it's very lucky. We got very, very lucky. And the driveway's long, so I think that's why nobody wanted the property. So it's a quarter mile long. So.
Sounds dreamy.
It's wonderful. I love it. Yeah.
And you wrote about it in a short story I found online called 10 Point.
Oh.
Do you remember the story?
That's fiction.
Oh, it is?
No, it's complete fiction. Yeah. You bought the one on the crime website? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Oh.
10 Point is about the neighbor's son who shoots a deer.
Yeah, tell me about it. What was your reaction to reading that?
Well, I thought, oh, well, this is biographical. That was my first reaction. Is I can't wait to ask him about this and who's the crouchy old neighbor and whatever happened to the son. And
that's completely made up.
Oh, that's great.
That's all fiction. But I'm glad you found it compelling at least.
Oh, I did. It was a great story.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anything would have changed had I gone into it thinking, oh, this is fiction.
Fiction, yeah. Interesting. That's great. No, that was it's based in things that I've observed, and it's all composite. But it is. I was thinking of my woods when I wrote that.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And do you spend a lot of time in those woods?
Oh, as much as I can. Yeah.
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 And you walking, or do you have a 4-wheeler or
no
dirt
4-wheelers? I go. I know I love to just walk and then go sit. Forest bathe. Are you familiar with the term?
Yeah,
forest
sure.
bathing? Yeah, so I like just sit down. Preferably, I like the fall and the winter best because there's no bugs. But I go mushroom hunting. I love to hunt for mushrooms.
It's a dangerous amusement.
You got to pay attention. There's like 3. You got to be careful.
3. What are the 3 you have to be careful of?
Let's see. Well, the death cap.
Death cap.
Death cap is pretty well named. Yeah, the one that I see around here the most that people should avoid is it's called destroying angel. That's what it's called.
I'm glad they gave him nicely descriptive names.
Yeah, mushroom people are nothing if not wise because they will
right.
direct you away from the one. So yeah, it's called an amanita. It starts out. It looks like a little egg, and then it bursts from the egg and just grows this enormous white stalk. You can tell it's got like a little skirt on the stem. Yeah, you do not want to eat that one.
Right.
50% chance liver and kidney failure. So
50% chance of what?
Liver and kidney failure if you don't get to the hospital.
Egads.
Yeah.
And for almost all of the poisonous mushrooms, are there things that can be done when you get to the hospital? If you get there in time?
I mean, I don't know because you learn the poisonous ones first, and then everything else will just give you a bad night. Like you're not going to die.
Bad nightmare.
You're going to have some bad indigestion, but you're not going to perish. Like, yeah.
But if I was like, picking mushrooms in the woods, and I have, but I've like sold them to the local like farm stand. Not.
You've done that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, when I lived in Woodstock.
Okay. Which ones? Which ones did you sell?
What did we get? Black trumpets and chanterelles.
Chanterelles, sure.
I even found some. Oh, I'm blanking on the name.
Morels?
Morels,
yeah.
Yeah, I found a whole bunch of morels one time at this place. I'm like, this is a gold mine. And I went back like every year for the next 10 years, nothing.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Just nothing.
Yeah.
Like, but they were all right there.
Yeah, that's what the mushrooms break your heart because they show up one year and the next year they die. I have a morel patch that I've gone back to for the last 3 years and it still hasn't produced
and
magic that it did.
When you pick them, you pull them out or you cut them off?
I cut them off. I've been told that if you yank them, I don't know, there's all kinds of wisdom. People say you're not supposed to yank them, but the mycelium is underneath, so you can't possibly destroy that entire network. But I love morels, yeah. The yellow oyster mushrooms are pretty common around here.
Right. Oh, also chicken of the forest.
Chicken of the woods. Chicken of the woods, yep. That's the bright orange one.
Yeah.
That wants to be found. No, most mushrooms don't want to be found, so they hide. But chicken of the woods looks like nuclear orange, like it wants to be. Yeah.
Right.
I love mushrooms. Yeah.
And do you ever see any phosphorescent mushrooms in your woods?
The jack-o'-lantern?
Yeah. I don't know what they're called.
There is one that's it's called jack-o'-lantern, and it glows. Supposedly, I have never seen it. I have found it on my land, and I want to go try and see it when it glows, but I have not yet seen. Yeah.
And what about hallucinogenic mushrooms? Do those grow wild around here?
Who wants to know? No.
Well,
you talk about psilocybin.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. I think you have to cultivate psilocybin. I don't know if they grow wild.
I like the way all of a sudden you're playing dumb. That's cool. We don't have to talk about it, Matthew. Huh. Well, what a treat! And there's lots of famous mushroom mycologists.
Oh, mycologists,
mycophiles, who are also authors.
Yeah, Paul Stamets is the most famous one.
Right.
Yeah. I went to a mushroom festival out in Telluride.
Oh,
a
nice.
couple years ago. Yeah.
Oh my God, that sounds like part incredibly cool and part like phenomenally nerdy.
Oh, it's beyond nerdy. It's if you want to really engage, you go to a mushroom festival. You'll find the whole spectrum. You'll find people who know nothing. And I sat in on a lecture, and it was like a scientific. I couldn't understand a word they said because they had all these data. I mean, people go to school for this. They get PhDs, and it's complicated. The whole network of mycelium and mycology is incredible.
Right.
You have to be really sharp to follow the current science because they're still identifying new species.
Right.
So
you must have seen this movie. I saw it not too long ago. Fantastic fungi.
Yeah, sure. Yep. That's a wonderful documentary.
Gorgeous. It's a beautiful movie.
I'm not sure where I come down on the stoned ape theory. Are you familiar with the stoned ape theory?
No. Let's hear it.
So it's in the documentary, I think. But the idea is that our ancestors took mushrooms. I'm reducing this to its basic premise, but they took mushrooms and therefore their brains expanded.
Oh.
And that's how we became smarter and wiser. I'm not sure. I don't know. It sounds
like a story
apocryphal.
Started by the ad guy for the psilocybin business.
Yeah, I mean, mushrooms do help you. There's no doubt about that. They help. They're good for your health.
Have you tried the psilocybin though?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And do you find that it helped you at all?
Yes.
In what way?
Calms you down, unloads trauma. Centers you.
You're using a present tense here. I mean, do you use it habitually? I mean, I know lots of people microdose.
Yeah, microdose.
Often.
Yeah, microdosing is like the ideal way to do it. But
right.
You have to be careful though.
You have to be careful.
Yeah, you have to know who. You can't just go to your local hippie neighbor who's like, "Hey, man, you want to take the mic?" You have to be careful.
Isn't that how it's always been though? The local hippie neighbor. These things are just in from Colorado and.
Well, you go out to Colorado. There's the one that the most popular, the mushroom that's entered the popular culture is the Amanita muscaria, which is the red mushroom with the white dots.
Yeah.
Fly agaric. Yeah, you know the one.
Right.
It's in Super Mario Brothers. Like it's on your phone. Every time you type in mushroom, like that's the mushroom that's
right.
on your phone. That's it's technically poisonous.
Right.
But you have to take it. That's the one people use to microdose.
Oh.
Yeah,
was not aware of that.
Yeah, that's one of the ones. But you take too much of it, you're gonna have a bad night. Not gonna die, but you will. Yes, you have to know what you're doing, and I do not. I don't. I just go to a trusted friend, and
Right.
Yeah.
And is your wife a mycophile as well?
She is an herbalist, so
okay.
She is not a mycologist at all, but she's pro mushroom. Yeah.
Pro mushroom. So these woods you have behind your house must provide a shit ton of bounty for the herbalist and the mycologist. And
yes. Mowing the lawn becomes a very fraught endeavor when you're married to an herbalist. You have to be very careful because that's a rare plant. And this is, we haven't seen, this is skullcap and this is echinacea. You can't just mow the lawn without.
And it's growing wild in your
wild, yeah.
In the yard, in the
Jack
grass.
in the Pulpit. I don't know if you've ever seen Jack in the Pulpit, but that's a very rare flower.
But that's a flower, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, she has taught me a lot about how to look at the forest landscape. Yeah, it's wonderful to have someone like that.
And at one point, somewhere I read you were talking about this powder of mushrooms or something that makes alcohol taste terrible.
Oh, Inky Cap.
Inky Cap. Oh,
it's called Inky Cap. Yeah. So I think that's what you're talking about. So there's a mushroom that, as legend has it, if you're an alcoholic and you drink, and you have Inky Cap mushrooms and you drink a lot of alcohol, you could have potential respiratory problems.
Oh, right. It's at the end of that story, 10 Point.
Oh, I forgot
This
my own
this
story.
is the
That's
revenge
right.
that the narrator,
Yes,
I
yeah.
thought it was you, was going to wreak upon the kid who
Right.
shot the deer.
Yeah.
Was get powdered inky cap, put it in
yeah.
his cheeseburger at the local
Yeah.
greasy spoon.
That's right. I wrote that story so long ago. I don't like making mushrooms the enemy, but they are. But legend has it that KGB used to do that. Long Siberian winters, everybody's drinking vodka. If you want to take somebody out, you just go to the bar, you put inky cap, and everyone's drinking. You can be sure they're drinking vodka 24/7,
right?
And that'll do them in. Apocryphal, I think, but nonetheless fun story. So
I love that.
Yeah.
So, do you write every day?
no, I used to when I was younger, but no longer.
How come? Why the change?
It's too exhausting. You don't need to. As long as you do the work, as long as I have a word count in mind for a particular project, as long as I'm making progress, I try to pay attention every day, think about it.
Right.
But actually physically sitting down every day is not,
right.
is
and
not necessary.
What are you working on right now?
At the moment?
Yeah.
I've got a couple things in the works. I have a novella and a new novel that I'd like to, I'm about 50,000 words into the new novel, and the novella is about 20,000 words. So,
and what will be the finished word count for each of those?
oof. I mean, if I want to get it published, I probably have to keep it near 100,000.
Wow.
You can't really.
And the novella, how long?
Novellas usually run about 40,000.
Okay, so you're about halfway into
50.
each.
Yeah, halfway into each. Yeah,
And they're totally different stories?
completely different.
Is there any overlap where you'll be working on one story, you're like, oh, I'm about to write this in this story, but it'd be better in that other story?
Yeah, occasionally that happens. Oh, this character, or it'll be just like, well, I'm feeling this story more today, and I'm going to go work on that one instead.
Right.
I do have characters they do pop up in, like I tend to write in a shared universe, and so I just take this character from that novel and put him in this one. So yeah,
makes sense. Well, hey, I'm getting parched here. I see you brought a drink, as is the tradition here on this Friday evening show. You brought a little something for us to drink. It's Athletic Brew Company Freewave Hazy IPA, non-alcoholic brew.
have you had this?
No.
Oh, they've improved. Non-alcoholic beer has come a long way.
Yeah.
It's no longer, O'Doul's is garbage, right? But this
O'Doul's
tastes like an actual.
Well, I can't wait to try it.
So I don't drink as much, if at all.
If at all. Did you used to?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But then, like, the inky cap helped you wean yourself.
yeah, just.
Well, cheers. I can't
my
wait
friend.
to taste this.
Cheers, Poe. It tastes like a real beer.
That's yummy.
Yeah, it's good, right?
It tastes
you
like
you get the taste of a beer, and you don't get drunk.
Tastes like the kind of IPA I like.
Yeah, and so I love it. And you still get the carbs, so that's
Right, and it's good looking packaging. I mean, it looks like a beer,
It looks like a beer. Yeah,
not like a wannabe beer.
I can.
So you just called me Poe because we're doing this radio play, which is so cool.
It's so much fun.
And the radio play is about Poe's cottage in the Bronx, where
I lived
for years and years. How did that come to pass?
How did I come to live in Poe's house?
Yeah, Edgar Allan Poe's cottage in the Bronx.
I was at Dempsey's Pub on the Bowery. Rest in peace. It no longer exists.
Oh, geez.
Dempsey's Pub. It was post 9/11. I think I had just lost both my jobs. I had no money, no prospects. I wanted to stay in New York, but I couldn't. And
what were the jobs you lost?
I was working for a documentary filmmaker, and then after 9/11 they split, and I was working for the Working Families Party, like third political party.
Oh, nice.
So and September 11th was the day of the primaries in New York that day. So we didn't have work for like a week, and then we came back, and it was sporadic. So I didn't have any money. So, and then my buddy just said, "Do you want free rent for the rest of your life?" And I said, "What?" And he's like, "You have to move up to the Bronx. You have to live in this cottage, and you got to do this and that." But
the rest of your life.
Yeah, and he's like, "Well, free rent in New York is like once you get that, you never give it up, right?" He's just assumed I would stay forever.
How long until you gave it up?
4 years.
That's pretty good.
It's not a place you can stay forever.
And so this guy told you about this gig.
Mm-hmm.
And what did the gig entail?
So you had to live. So there's Edgar Allan Poe's last home is in the Bronx. It's on Kingsbridge Road in the Grand Concourse. It's a small white clapboard farm cottage. It's now a museum. It's where he brought his wife, Virginia, when she had tuberculosis. The Bronx was the country. So it's turned into a museum, and the last 3 years of his life were lived there. So I lived in the basement. The caretaker's apartment was in the basement. Saturdays and Sundays, you had to walk upstairs to give tours of the cottage. And that was the basic there was a locked gate surrounding the property. So you had to maintain the property and make sure no one abused it or, vandalized it. And so you're just meant to live there and deter.
52 Saturdays and 52 Sundays a year?
Barring Chris, I got a few weekends off here and there. But yeah, you were committed. You could not go anywhere, which is fine because I didn't have any money. So
not go anywhere on Saturday and Sundays.
And you just can't go anywhere on Saturdays and Sundays. Yeah, for Saturday from 10 to 4 and Sunday from 1 to 5.
Right.
That's it. So then after that, you can do whatever you want. But it was pretty much you were committed to staying there and living there. You're supposed to stay there every night. But, how that goes. When you're a 20-year-old man, you're just...
Yeah. Well, and I guess, at some point you have a girlfriend or something. And
Well, it's hard to get a date in Poe Cottage. Let me tell you that right now.
Was it?
Well, let's role play here, right?
Okay.
So, hey, baby, you want to come? Let's pretend. You want to take a 45-minute subway ride to the Bronx at night? And then we're going to walk down a dark city. No, hold on. Then it gets better. We're going to walk down the block at night in the Bronx to a neighborhood that you don't know. And then we're going to go into a city park. There's a locked gate. I'm the only person that has the key. We're going to walk through this gate, and then I'm going to lock the gate behind us, okay? And then we're going to go into a basement of a historical house where a man wrote stories about dead women. How does that sound? If I did that,
well,
do you want to come home, Norm?
I might have positioned it slightly differently. Hey, man, you got a house with a private garden, and I'd love to have you come over. It's a little out of the way. That's part of the charm.
You can't tell a woman that. You got to say we're going to the Bronx.
Yeah.
And so they were either into it or they weren't. So.
Wow.
That's some people were. I did get a few dates. And then I met my wife. And she's like, where do you live? I was like, I live in Poe Cottage. She's like, I have to see that. So she came.
Love that.
This was before cell phones.
After how many dates?
I don't think we were really formally dating yet. I think it was just like, she met me and I said, it's where I live. And then we arranged for a time. She didn't show up. I figured, she blew me off, right? I'm just some weirdo. So I locked the gate and just went back to my basement, sat in the basement. I only had one window. And then she basically showed up she got into the park somehow. She showed up at the window and surprised me. She's like, so basically what she did was she turned over a garbage can and climbed over the fence. She's Norwegian. She's like this little white girl, and she's climbing over the fence to get into the park.
The Bronx.
In the Bronx. No one stopped her. So when she did that, I was like, well, you're the woman for me. That sounds pretty.
And so, but had other people done that while you were there? Turned over the same garbage can and hopped over is it like a 6-foot fence?
It's like a little spiked fence. You can.
Okay.
I still don't know how she did it without impaling herself, but she did it, and she was not going to go home without seeing the cottage. That's the kind of woman she is.
Fucking love that. I want to meet this woman.
She is a force of nature. When she wants to do something,
right,
she will do it. And she did. She came all the way to the Bronx. She wasn't going to turn around and go home.
Yeah,
this guy arranged this, and there it is. And
so was that your first date?
Technically speaking, I suppose one of the first. Yeah, she was a big community gardens person, and so she gave me a tour of the community gardens on the Lower East Side in New York.
Okay.
A lot of fun.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
And how big a park is it surrounding Poe Cottage?
It's like a little teardrop-shaped city park. Like it's kind of big at the top, and then it narrows down at the end. It's not very big at all. It's small by most.
Like a half an acre?
If that, yeah, I'd say. Yeah, like probably an acre or two, but not huge.
That's a lot. So you had trees there, and
the giant oak tree in the backyard, and and it was gorgeous.
And were you the gardener as well?
I did garden, and the park department said that's our job. I tried planting a few things, and they were pretty.
And the Parks
protected.
Department
Parks
said
Department
no.
was like, no, that's our job.
So was that your boss, the Parks Department?
No, I worked for the Historical Society, the Bronx Historical Society.
But was the property owned by the city, maintained by the Parks Department, and
it was maintained by the Parks Department. It was not owned by the city. The park was owned by the city, but the house belonged to the Historical Society, so it was kind of an odd marriage. So they had.
So all of a sudden, here you're butting up against the bureaucracy again.
Yeah. Well, they didn't. Sometimes they just were idiots. They didn't know. Like when they went to plant seed for the lawn, they just threw down the seed. Right. And I said, you have to put something down to protect it from the birds.
You see the birds.
You see those pigeons? Like they're looking at that, and it's like, so they would just throw down grass seed and leave it, and then within minutes, the lawn would be covered in pigeons.
Right.
I'm like, do you people know how to garden? Starlings. Yeah.
Worse.
Worse.
Were there any ravens up there?
There were, I think there were crows.
Yeah.
I was told there's a difference between crows and ravens.
Yeah, I think there is.
Yeah. There were black squirrels. That was even creepier.
Black squirrels are so cool. I always feel kind of lucky when I see a black squirrel. So you got this gig. Did you have to show some modicum of expertise on the life and work of Poe to get the gig?
No. You had to show sanity.
Sanity.
They asked for 6 references because
that's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. And no, you didn't have to. You have to be willing to learn. But they were seriously looking for someone that was, because they had caretakers like run out of them. They signed a contract and said you had to stay at least a year.
Right.
You can't leave after.
And had you seen The Shining at this point in time?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Right? Because they hired Nicholson.
And it was like, I had
the Overlook Hotel.
When it snowed, that one window that I had, it got covered up. So I was pretty much like
and were there creepy moments doing that?
I had a rat break in. That was the worst.
Rats creep me out.
Yeah, it fell right on my bed. So that was. I heard it was very classic. It was very Poe-like. I heard a scritching and a scratching, and I was like, "What is that?" I didn't even think about it. And then I walked to the edge of the door where the rat just fell down the stairs.
What'd you do with the rat?
I killed it.
You killed it.
Yeah, it was
that's
awful.
Nice. And then you put it behind a little.
Then I wept.
Brick wall that you built in the basement.
Put it in the garden.
You heard its heart going on and on for ever and ever.
No, it deserved it.
Forevermore.
Oh, it was awful. Yeah, that was terrible. But so it was a great job. You didn't have to show any expertise. You just had to be reliable and show up every day and give the tours.
And when you were giving the tours, people probably wanted you to have some expertise.
Oh yeah, my first tour was given to a Poe scholar.
Oh God,
I completely blew it. So that was not fair.
And you're 20-something, which was the age when people are, I think probably guys especially, are like, oh, I've got all the answers. Were you making shit up?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah. Did Poe smoke opium? Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, you betcha.
You betcha. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no, I made a lot of stuff up on the fly, and people didn't seem to mind. Nobody
complained. They didn't care.
Well, occasionally something would get back to the Historical Society.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes.
And the Historical Society calling you up?
Would say, Matt, what are you telling people? I'm like, isn't that not true? Like, I'm so sorry.
Isn't that not true with the double negative? Tricking them right away.
I thought that was, no, so yeah, occasionally. But that was very rare. More so, they would get calls if I slept late and the gate wasn't open 5 minutes on,
What time was the gate supposed to open?
10 o'clock. So if it was open, it was like, one morning I slept in, like it was 10 after 10 and the gate wasn't open. So someone called.
Oh God. And the tours start at 10?
10 in the morning. Yep.
So at some point during this span of 4 years doing that, did you start to think maybe this would be something to write about?
Oh yeah. No, I thought.
Did you have that thought going in?
I had it going in. I thought, but I was told expressly to not write about it.
Oh.
At least when I was there, like privacy of the caretaker is paramount. So don't do an editorial. Don't write some fun thing.
Oh, right.
Or people are going to know, and they're going to bother the caretaker. So now I completely
people know what.
that somebody lives there and somebody did, I don't know what they thought.
And why did they not want people to know that there was? I would think you would want somebody to know there's a 24-hour.
I made the same argument, but I guess they just were paranoid and thought people's privacy. I mean, you can't get into the park. You have to work really hard to. I don't know. I don't know why people were paranoid about it, but I would. Yeah.
When's the last time you've been there?
Oh God, I went back a while ago.
Do you like to? Have you ever gone down and thought, oh, there's some new docent? And you go razz this guy, ask him if Poe took opium. See how he does.
Him, yeah, I believe they just kicked out the guy that had been there. He'd been there like 10 years, and I think he was going to stay forever. And I think they probably have to amend the contract now and say you can't leave after a year, but you also can't stay for 10 years. I don't know. I think he just was going to make it his home. And no, I stopped in a few times after I left, and people were pretty wonderful. I don't tell them I was the former docent because I just let them. I don't want to step on their toes.
Yeah. You just want to hear their spiel.
I don't want to be a jerk. It's like, no, I know it all.
Yeah, I did it better. Wait, give it 30 years. When I was a docent.
When I was the Poe caretaker.
So you weren't writing articles about living there, but did you start writing sort of this book?
No, I didn't start writing it till I wasn't prepared to write it until years later. I knew that it was going to be a good material, but I wasn't mature enough. So I tried writing other stuff that failed spectacularly.
Right.
A few novels.
And 2 of the 3 Moth stories I heard were set in Poe Cottage.
Yeah.
Or about that.
Mm-hmm.
When did that happen? When were those written?
I never wrote them down. I just kind of rehearsed them, and then 2009, I think I started showing up at the Moth, and I just saw a good buddy of mine who we met. I have so many good friends from that period of time. Yeah, so the Moth had been in existence for a few years, and so you started showing up at the slams, put my name in the hat. I won a story slam, and then you went to the Grand Slam, and you just got inducted into this.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was a great, So, and the Poe stories were always a big hit, so.
And so did that embolden you with the idea of writing this novel?
It emboldened me. Yeah, well, it gave me confidence as a storyteller. I'm like, I can take this from point A to point B for 5 minutes.
That's funny. So prior to your first Moth appearance, how did you describe yourself? People said, what do you do when you're no longer at Poe Cottage?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I always told people I was a writer, but I really didn't feel like
Right.
But now I tell people I'm a storyteller.
Right.
And that's like legit. Yeah, but before the Moth and after the Moth. Yeah.
Right.
Distinct, 2 different Matts, for sure.
2 different what?
2 different Matthews, 2 different personalities.
Right.
A lot more confidence after the Moth.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you brought that confidence to this book. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Poe I, the novel. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a psychological thriller. It's published by a horror press, but people shouldn't be put off by that because it's not splatterpunk. It's not gory. It's more spooky and weird. Lots of ghosts.
Right.
Stuff like that. Family trauma.
And you got a grant from the New York branch of...
the Mystery Writers of America. Yeah, they gave me a small scholarship some years ago. Yeah, that was great. And so that connected me with the Mystery Writers of New York. So I got to get back in touch with them and let them know. I had told them the book had sold. So yeah, that was one.
So how long did it take you to sit down and write this novel?
I started writing it. I'm embarrassed to admit it's almost 2011.
Is it 100,000 words?
It is roughly, but nice. But the manuscript apparently is only like just under 300 pages, which feels odd. But
just under 300 pages.
Just under 300 pages, 292 apparently.
That's a healthy size.
Is that a healthy? Would you read that? Is that too big?
Oh, I like, a 5-page book.
Great.
I like a pamphlet. Yeah. But no, I would definitely read it. And I started reading it.
Oh, you did?
You were kind enough to send me some of it. And one of the things I really, really liked about it, and thanks again for sending me, was the blurbs. You got great blurbs from people in the front of the book. You got one from Charles Baudelaire, which is amazing. He said, I took joy in this book the way I take joy in the taste of harsh, sour wine. That's great. You also got a fabulous blurb from Walt Whitman, who I understand was not really a fan of Poe.
He was not.
And they had some.
They made some words.
And one of the stories you tell about being there, and some Walt Whitman acolyte.
Yeah.
Comes. Can you
my
tell
doppelganger. Yeah. So the guy shows up at the door.
Your opposite number at the Whitman cottage.
Yeah. He shows up and he's kind of like just stops my tour halfway through. He's like, let me just stop you.
But tell the background between the two of them.
Between Poe and Whitman.
Yeah.
So Whitman did not like Poe's poetry at first. He thought it was too dark and too dreary, and he didn't feel like poetry should concern itself with death and dying unless you were going to talk about the positive and the light to balance it out.
Right.
Very Whitman attitude, right? But then he changed his mind. He did change his mind years later, went to a memorial for Poe, and kind of said, well, now I can see, having lived life, I can see that Poe, somebody needs to stand for the darkness, and Poe is that. Poe is our man in terms of American letters.
That's sweet. But for the longest time, he was like, that's trash, and Poe's like, his stuff is crap.
Yeah, which I don't, Whitman was a smart guy. I don't know why he would be so...
throwing down.
I mean, he wrote about darkness.
The PR agents probably set up the whole feud. This is going to be good for business.
Yeah. Whitman, a lot of those 19th century poets had strong opinions, and Emerson too. Emerson did not like.
So your opposite number at the Whitman cottage
so he shows
Brooklyn,
up.
or where was that?
God, Jersey, I think.
Shows
up and said, "Stop! I know you have to defend Poe, but there's really no need because I look after a historical house too." And I was like, "Oh, really? Who's your poet? He's like, "Oh, you might have heard of him. Goes by the name of Walt Whitman."
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you heard of him.
Maybe you heard of him. He was just very pretentious in the way.
And at this point, did you spit in the floor and stomp your boot?
I was pretty upset. And I looked at this point, you got to imagine, I looked like Poe. I had long hair, I had sideburns. I mean, I was like pretty. People told me I started to look like the man himself.
Interesting.
And I was like, you cannot say that about my boy, Edgar Allan Poe. And I said, Walt Whitman, you think the guy never heard of a period, goes on and on and on. Jesus, give it a break, pal. Never. And he's like, you can't say that about Walt Whitman. I was like, yeah, welcome to the Bronx. This is how we do things here.
Yeah.
You don't go back to Jersey, you moron, with your Whitman and your long song of yourself, moron. Please.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Leaves of grass right
Leaves of
here.
Grass, go Civil War, doc journalist, whatever you want.
So how did this altercation of words end up?
How did it end?
Yeah.
Oh, God, that I don't. I mean, we just agreed to disagree. I think I had to maintain a certain composure because I knew he looked like one of these pricks who would call the historical society and say, this guy spoke badly to me. And so that wasn't the first time that I met guys from Sleepy Hollow and I met people from.
Oh, really? Like Washington Irving?
Well, my boss hated Sleepy Hollow. She was like, they get all the funding because of a headless horseman. They get all the nonprofit money. Like, why doesn't Poe Cottage get more? So it was,
Wait, so this is hilarious. This whole sort of other thing. Is any of that in the book?
There's allusions to it, but I don't get into the wars between nonprofits.
Oh, I love that. Nonprofits. I love that
like,
so
they get
much.
The historians are the pissiest people. Like, wow, why is that? Why does the House of Seven Gables get Nathaniel Hawthorne? Like, people get pissed. Yeah. It's a bloodbath like every part of our capitalist society. Everything. People are scrabbling for money. So
right.
The historical societies are no different.
But it sounds actually like a movie, like Best in Show. There's the guy who did all of those.
Christopher Guest.
Yes, spoof movies on dogs and community theater and.
The nonprofit world is due for a Christopher Guest satire. I think. I don't know how to write it, but
he's probably listening right now. So get in touch with me or Matt.
Is he local? Is he?
I don't know.
Oh God, that would be great. A Christopher Guest, starring Frances McDormand.
Oh, right. Great.
She'd be perfect.
So the whole thing kind of reminds me of the story. And somebody said this, I forget where I read it in some of your materials, mentioned Rufus Wilmot Griswold.
Oh, Rufus Griswold.
Yeah.
The Griswold scandal. Mm-hmm.
What was that?
So the Griswold scandal is, after Poe died without an estate. Died lonely, in the gutter, just no name. So
but not in the Bronx.
Not in the Bronx.
It was his last home, but
in Baltimore. He died in the streets of Baltimore. He was found outside a polling place Ward's 5th polling place. So yeah, Rufus Griswold was a minor poet of the time, and Poe had given him a few poems for an anthology. So he thought they were friends, but after Poe died, Rufus Griswold saw it upon himself to write a scathing biography of the man. So a lot of the myths that we hear about Poe come from the Griswold. It's called the Griswold scandal. Griswold wrote this memoir. It's since been debunked, but
myths such as this things you would perpetrate.
Yes, exactly right. Yes, things that but he would just slander his character, tell people he wasn't a good friend. He would exaggerate the drinking. I mean, Poe did drink, but he was not. He was a good friend by all accounts. Poe was an extraordinary friend to people that loved him, and Rufus Griswold gave us the dark Poe that has now entered pop culture. So.
But most of it was it's now understood to be made up, out of
up or exaggerated. Yeah, exaggerated and beyond. And the pop culture Poe is more prominent than the real man himself.
Right, and a lot of that caricature comes from this jealous guy, Griswold.
Rufus Griswold. He was a creepy dude himself, and he went to his wife's grave and cut locks off the corpse of her hair and just sung. There's a great quote. I got a blurb from a real author, or a living one, I should say. Mark. God, I'm going to mispronounce his last name, but he wrote a whole book about Poe, debunking a lot of the Poe myths. So, yeah.
That's good for him.
Yeah.
You did. It looked like there were some actual
real
people.
Yeah. Matthew Pearl, who's a historical novelist.
In those blurbs,
who was writing his own Poe novel at the time.
Mark Dawidziak.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Right. Did you? It's right here if you want to refer to it.
I can't. I'm sorry, Mark. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to butcher your name, but yeah, Matthew Pearl. He wrote his own Poe novel. Turns out that I gave him a tour.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I wrote to him seeking a blurb years ago. And he's like, "Did you work at the Poe Cottage from 2002 to?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I think you gave me a tour."
I love that.
That's how that blurb.
And so over the years, because of this chance encounter at the now defunct bar in the Bowery, you got that gig, and I'm guessing you've kind of become, you've learned a whole shit ton about this American writer, and critic,
probably more than anyone cares to know. But yeah, I have every single book that he's written. I have his entire catalog, everything.
Right.
His best-selling book was a book about seashells.
Seashells?
Yep. Got commissioned to write a book about seashells.
Was it called Seashells?
I forget. No, it was in 19th century.
She sells seashells by the seashore?
It was a I don't know, the science of seashells. Yeah, so that was one of his best-selling books.
And he was a student of seashells?
No, not really. No. He just was a know-it-all. He had a lot of...
A know-it-all.
Yeah, he wrote his own theory of the universe.
Oh.
Called Eureka.
Wow.
Yeah, I wrote that in the Bronx. The universe started from a small speck and expanded outward. That was his whole poetic theory of the universe. Does that sound familiar?
I think I've heard that theory.
Yeah, it predated the Big Bang Theory. So he pretty much came up with the idea before science caught up with it. So,
Interesting. And so have you read all of his writings?
Pretty much. Everything. Some of it's better than others. But
nice.
Yeah.
So I got to ask this as a segue to your book and the radio play. Do you believe in ghosts?
Do I believe in ghosts? I believe a space can be haunted. I believe if something terrible has happened there, I feel like you can feel that. I don't want to say energy because it sounds new agey, but I do believe that people don't want to be there if something awful has happened. So I believe that there can be, the place, a physical space can have a spirit to it that is something you can't pinpoint.
And Poe's wife died there at the cottage.
Of tuberculosis.
Did you ever think you felt a spirit or smelled or heard? Or
there was definitely, when you live by yourself, your mind works tricks on you. So there's that too.
Yeah.
Which is legitimate.
When it's that hard to get a date to come to your place.
all that build up in your head. All that.
Were they called incels?
Yes, that's Jesus.
Involuntarily celibate.
Yeah, that's where all that madness comes from. So that can happen. So, But yeah, I guess that's kind of avoiding the question, right? Do I believe in ghosts? I mean, yeah, I believe a place can have its history. Historical places where historical trauma has happened. Like you feel like you can't. There's nothing physical there, but.
Did you ever have ghost hunters show up at Poe Cottage?
Yeah. Which is one of those, there's a ghost hunter in the drama that is based on a guy who, he would show up. That's probably why I'm waffling, but he would show up and insist that Poe's ghost was there. And he would absolutely insist. And there was a guy who showed up and tried to perform a seance. Like one of the Moth stories is about that. Like the guy, he sat down in front of the bus and he's like, I'm not leaving until I raise the spirit of Poe. And I was like,
and did you say, dude, he died in Baltimore?
I was like, yeah, you're in the wrong place. So go down to Baltimore instead. So it was, it attracted a lot of ghost hunters. Yeah. People who wanted that connection to Poe. So, we want it very desperately.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the book. What's the basic idea beyond what we've hinted at here?
So it's loosely. I have a fictional narrator, a fictional doppelganger named Jonah Peabody, who takes the job. He's at the end of his rope emotionally and financially, and he claims to be in New York looking for his lost sister Andromeda. But the chapters alternate between present tense and past tense. It goes, first chapter's in the present, second chapter's in the past with Jonah's childhood. So it kind of alternates chapters. And as the story progresses and you get more of Jonah's story, you see that he's a highly unreliable narrator. And he's got things that he's hiding for various reasons. And so...
Highly unreliable narrator.
Oh, yeah. Like all of Poe's heroes.
Like certain docents I need not mention.
Yeah. Yeah, Poe pioneered the unreliable narrator. You can't trust someone who's telling a story in first person.
I love that. Did he do that on purpose as sort of like a literary
device? Yeah. Telltale Heart is
unreliable narrator.
The unreliable narrator, like the Black Cat. Yeah, they always tell you this person deserves to die, and here's why, right? So you can't trust what they say. Black Cat, unreliable. Telltale Heart, unreliable. Yeah, most of his characters are telling you a story that is not to be believed. So
I love that. And so you purposely sort of borrowed that for your novel.
So I decided it had to be in first person because that was very Poe-like. And so I mean, Telltale Heart's the best example.
Is it what?
Telltale Heart, the old story. The Telltale Heart is the best example of that unreliable. Because not only is he tells you, I murdered somebody, so he's not hiding that.
Right.
But he's convincing you that he's justified in doing it, and here's why. So it's that kind of unreliability.
Right.
He's justifying his actions.
So the book is called Poe and I.
Poe and I. Yeah.
And it's a great title.
Grammatically incorrect.
And I really can't wait to read it.
Well, good.
And the radio play is sort of based on the same events that are...
Same... Well, I try to explore some of the characters that I didn't get a chance to do so in the book.
Right.
A novel you can't talk about.
Right.
So I have a couple of Puerto Rican goth teenagers in the book who play a more prominent role in the radio play. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, any idea when the book comes out?
Today.
Today?
Oh my God. Today.
What timing? This is great. Well, fabulous. Everybody rush out and get it. We're out of time here. Matt Mercier, thank you so much. Mercier.
It's fine. Thank you, Norm. This was great.
Thank you so much for coming in. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. If anybody did tune in, have a great Friday and a fabulous upstate art weekend. Good night.